Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fleet Brothers channel. I'm today going to be showing you this dashboard that I've put together, which is able to track all of a Turo host's data with the cars that they're managing, the earnings that they've made, the expenses that are coming in, and then it's automatically shared with any clients that they are co-hosting on behalf of. So this is actually something that we had a lot of trouble with as we grew Arslan Fleet. As many of you know, we grew to 50 cars in the matter of months. So the growth was incredibly rapid, and we had a lot of issues that we now know how to deal with that we didn't have solutions for previously. And the major issue was always clients not knowing certain information about their cars, like the status of any repairs that need to be made, why some expenses were done, and then most importantly, how much they were earning each month, and they wanted a clear view into everything. So this is the solution that we developed in-house and worked with certain consultants to put together and make it as smooth as humanly possible. Um, so I hope you like it. If you do like it, this is something that we are at the moment expanding out to other fleets. So if you have any interest in utilizing this dashboard for your fleet, then please come to me and let's figure out how to incorporate this the best way possible. I also do the education on how you can utilize your custom dashboard after it is created. So, without further ado, here is what you're going to be seeing as a Turo host. So, obviously, down here at the bottom, you're going to see the different tabs that you're working through. Obviously, this is all through Google Sheets, which we really like to keep it in Google Sheets because a lot of times when you're trying to analyze any of the data from your fleet, you're going to throw it into Google Sheets anyway, so we might as well start there. Right here, we have all the info on how to use the dashboard. If you were sitting there trying to figure out yourself, you could use this and understand exactly how everything works. But obviously, I'm here to show you this stuff, so we're not going to dive into the instructions. I'm just going to show you. So, jumping over here to client data. Now, this is all example data that we have throughout the entire dashboard. But this is what it will look like when it is fully implemented into your fleet. So, right here we have all the information that we need to collect about the individuals that you are managing cars on behalf of. So, for this example, this individual is managing cars for 13 different clients, right? And so we're recording their cell phone information, their email addresses, their addresses, the LLCs that they're having the cars purchased under or are associated with. And then we have their EIN. And then over here, this is very important that you collect a W-9 from your clients so that when you're paying them out, the tax burden does not lie on you. Instead, you are recording everything, sending them their W-9, and the tax burden falls on them, right? So you don't want to pay the taxes. Make sure that you're collecting their W-9, and once you've collected it, you can go ahead and check the box that we have here generated for you. Then over here, we have the standard split. So the standard split is essentially if you've negotiated with a client that you will do a 70-30 split, that means 70% will go to that client. So for example, Chris Baker, he's got a 70% split of whatever the earnings are that Turo pays out on, versus someone like Matthew, for example, has a 25-75 split because they've negotiated a different split in their contract. So whatever that standard split is with the client, go ahead and record it here. If you charge a flat fee per month, then we can work with that too. What you would do in that situation is you would just give them a 100% split, and then the flat fee would come out as an expense each month so that you can still make your money on that. Now, what we also are doing is for every single one of these clients, I'm going to go ahead and create a dashboard for each of them, and I'll dive more into what their dashboards look like later. But this is going to give you the ability to look at their dashboard from their perspective, or if they're saying, hey, I don't know where to access my dashboard, you can jump on here and you can just share the link with them for their dashboard. So next, and this is all just the boring like stuff at first, right? So we've just got data that we're collecting on clients that you just need to collect. At least, your one time you need to collect all this data and record it. One time you're going to have to do the same thing, collect all the data on each individual vehicle and record it. So as you can see here, anything that's in purple, we want to fill out. So you can mark each car as renting, paused, or dead. So if the car is paused, you'll see that it's now yellow, and it is now paused. So you can understand whether it's paused or renting, or dead. If it's dead, it's fully grayed out, and you still have the data on the car, but it is grayed out, so you're not dealing with it. So if it's renting, it's purple. And if it is purple, I want you to fill it out. So we have the owner's email that you're going to drop down and choose from. When you do that, for example, if I chose this individual's email, it's going to come and pop up with that person's first and last name right next to this. If the box is gray, these are going to be automated and automatically pop up for you as you're going through it. So for these examples, right, we've got this person, Matthew. He has this email address. He has this car, this model, this year, this color, right? So we're collecting all of this information, including their insurance information and their warranty information, all of that. And then what happens is it imports that split that we looked at earlier, right here, imports it in to the revenue split that's going to be split between with that car, right? Now, the other cool thing is that we're creating a folder for the host to use as their intake photos folder. So you can jump into this intake photos folder and you can upload your whatever the car's initial condition was. So what I would encourage when you're doing this is take like 1,000 photos of the car, put them all into this folder, and that way you and the client are on the same page as to what the condition of the car was when they dropped it off with you. I've had a lot of issues with, not a lot, I've definitely had some headaches though, with a client that will get the car back after I've been managing it for a certain amount of time. They'll get it back, they'll look at the car, and they'll be like, oh my God, there's a chip in the windshield. And I'll be like, yeah, it was there to start with. However, I don't have any proof that it didn't have a chip necessarily, and they don't have any proof that it did have a chip. So then there's this gray area of like, how are we going to resolve this? This solves that issue, right? Just having a folder between yourself and the client to view, so that you understand what the condition of the car was before you took it on for management. Now, the revenue split over here, like I said, it's imported directly from this standard split. Now, something to note is if you have a client, say for example, we have Zach, and we negotiated a deal with Zach that, hey, your first car, we're going to take on at a 70-30 split, but once you send us a second car, we're going to hook you up and give you a 75% split. So if you have any deals like that with your clientele, then you can customize this on this page, which is why it's purple, so customizable. So if you have any specific one-offs with certain cars, or you have a tiered system where you say, hey, when you bring 5 cars on, we're going to bump you down to 25%, then you can use this to adjust your split. Next, we have the vehicle earnings. And so the vehicle earnings are all going to be processed straight from your CSV that you download from Turo. So you go onto the Turo website, download your CSV on the earnings page, which I'm sure most of you understand how to do that. That's going to download a file. And then right here is an example of what it's going to look like when you have your own earnings folder. And all you have to do is drag and drop that file into here. And then what we're doing is we're processing all of that data. So first of all, we have the raw earnings data. The raw earnings is just like it sounds. It's literally just all of the earnings that are processed down, and you can see every single trip by trip for every single car that you have put out on a trip. So if you want, you can look through this. Say, for example, you have a question about like, oh, why did, this trip only make $173? I swore it made more. We actually link you directly to that reservation. So you'll be able to click on here once it's made for you, and you'll be linked directly to that page, that Turo page, that has to do with the reservation that you're concerned about. So pretty nice little thing there. And then this is where the rubber hits the road. So over on this page, we can actually sort month by month for how much each car made, right? So let's, for example, I'm just going to show you everything right now. So for, these cars, right, we're showing that there's a revenue figure here, which is the amount that Turo has paid you out. And then we see other expenses, other charges that are incorporated. And then at the end of the day, it's boiled down to here's how much I actually owe this client at the end of the day. And the cool thing is that, and I'll show you the expenses portion in a second, it's pulling directly from your expenses page, which is this. I'll show you more how it works in just a second. And it incorporates that into how much you should be paying out the client. Now, it also incorporates things like the delivery charge. Delivery charge, that was work that you did, so you're keeping all of this money, okay? Now, things like an extras charge, things like tolls and tickets, these are all based accordingly so that it is completely fair and you are not losing money on things that should not be split, right? We want to make sure that the money that should be going to your pocket is going into your pocket. So that's kind of how we understand how much we should be paying a client at the end of the month. So if you're looking, for example, if you're looking for, let's say March, right? So I'm going to just clear everything and just select March. Now we have these 2 cars that have been processed for March, and we understand how much. I'm sorry, that was March 2023. That's why nothing showed up. So if we go March 2024, there's going to be more cars. March 2024, these vehicles were on the road and made this much money. So when our hosts are paying out the clients, all you're doing is you're recording the email address and you're recording the payout. And then we actually have a system that we're utilizing called Melio, where we say, okay, look, take this email address, just copy and paste it in, and then send that much money to that email address. It's basically like Venmo, but for business. So it makes life really easy because these are the only 2 things you need. Boom, boom, right? Boom, boom. So you can imagine how quick now your payouts are going to be. The other thing to note is, yes, this is optimized for Turo right now. However, if you're also doing private rental, say you're utilizing Fleetwire or HQ Rentals, They also have CSVs that can be downloaded, and we will integrate that into the whole thing so that if, say, for example, Mark, he had a car on his same car was on Turo and HQ Rentals. Now we are able to combine those two payouts, and you're only getting one payout on how much they should be paying. Okay, so then uh, let's move on real quick to the expenses portion because I think that's something a lot of people are interested in. Um, for the expenses, right? We've got it listed out by category, amount, vendor, date, description, and receipt. Now, what's cool is that something like one of these expenses that have a clickable view of a receipt, we can just view exactly the receipt that was given after that purchase was made. So, for example, this Kia Sorento for $23 off of Amazon. On this date, we had to buy windshield wipers, and then this receipt was made, and so now we can go in and see the exact receipt for those windshield wipers. If that client ever has any questions, they're actually going to be able to see that receipt on their end as well. If we ever need to make a return, then we have this receipt that we can just pull up and say, oh, here's the receipt. I need to get my money back. So that's how that works. And then we also have fixed expenses that are coming in each month automatically, so that we can keep track of everything there. I'm going to really quick go into how we are recording these expenses with receipts so that you understand how simple it is. So I have this form that's been created. This form gives you the ability to upload a receipt. And yes, you can actually use this directly on your phone. So a lot of our hosts are just saving this expense form directly onto their home screen. And then they are clicking into it, uploading a receipt of whatever purchase they made. And then what they can do is they can say, okay, was this for a specific car? If yes, it was for a specific car, they're going to go ahead and select that car. Sorry. Yeah. So they're going to go ahead and, like I said, select that car. And then they're going to select the date that the expense occurred. They're going to say how much it was. They're going to say who was the vendor, AutoZone, for example. And then a description of the expense, so like windshield wiper. And then once we submit it, that expense is going to populate onto this sheet, and you'll be able to see everything that you just went through. So you'll see the car that it was meant for, the amount, the vendor. So this would say AutoZone, this would say the date, and then this would say a description of what that was, and then we would see a view of the receipt. So that's how that works. Then we have the fixed expenses. So the fixed expenses are going to be things that are coming in each month over and over again on a specific date. And so for this example, we have a parking expense that's charged monthly, and we have a GPS and a car wash expense that are charged monthly. We're also selecting what cars this applies to. So for the parking expense, you can see that these cars were selected. And if you actually wanted to apply it to all the cars, we would just go here and check these off. For the GPS, any car that this GPS is associated with is listed here as well. And then for the car wash, same thing. Now, if you have an expense that is weekly, you can do that. Daily, you can do that. So every single type of expense you can record here, no matter what type of reoccurrence it has or frequency it has. Then what is happening with these expenses is, like I showed you, they are automatically populating into our expenses sheet. Um, Now, let's say, for example, you're looking through here and you're like, oh, I wish there was an expense category for, I don't know, let's say you have a partner named Seth and he's spending a lot of money, so we want to track how much Seth is spending. We could just come here and you could make a custom expense category for Seth. And now you'd be able to go back over to expenses and choose Seth as a drop down, so that we can track everything that he is spending. So that's how that works. And then going over to this last tab, now a lot of your clients, or maybe some of your clients, will be providing their own extras with the vehicle. So for example, I've gone ahead and shown, what happens if we've got Zach that provides a rooftop tint on his car, or Lexi provides a cargo carrier, or Mark has a child seat. So they want to get paid out on the extras that they own. I think it's only fair that whoever owns the extras should be getting paid out. Now, what happens is when you put this information in, it's going to pull trip IDs for trips that do have an extra included on that trip. However, you're going to manually have to make the differentiator of whether an extra from that trip should be paid to that client or to yourself. So all you'll do is you'll click into here. That brings you directly to the Turo page, and it'll show you a breakdown of the receipt for that trip. So what you'll do is you'll say, okay, I'm looking at the receipt, and yeah, it looks like, that rooftop tent made, $21.50. So you'll punch that in, and now that client is going to have that $21.50 go into their pocket for that trip. Something else to note is we're only pooling trips that are associated with these vehicles. So it's not going to pull in every single one of your trips that has an extra. It's only pulling in extras or trip IDs from the vehicles that are listed here. And then you're going to have to sort through on how much you're going to be paying out the client for their extra on that trip. And then obviously, if we go back into raw earnings data, you look into the client extras category. Right now, we don't have any that are viewable, but those payments would be placed into the client extras. And then at the end of the day, in the vehicle earnings tab, you're going to be able to see, okay, they're getting paid, $50 for the extras for the month. And that will also reflect onto the client's dashboard. Speaking of the client's dashboard, let's go ahead and show you what this looks like. So I'll click into here so that you can get an example of what a client dashboard is. So similarly, we have a client dashboard with instructions on how they should expect the dashboard to function. But again, I'm going to go through it and show you exactly how this works. So starting here with the vehicles page, this is for, an example client who is at 123 Denver Lane. So they're going to see all of the information that you have on them right here. That way, if you have something that's incorrect, they can say, hey, look, you got this wrong. Let's go ahead and update this so that you don't send something to the wrong address, for example. Then it's going to show the vehicles that are associated with that client, and you're going to understand whether your car is currently renting, whether your car is dead or paused. It's going to show up here. And then you'll see the year, make, and model and license plate. Again, you can double check this stuff, or if you just need to access this as a client for your own personal information, you can jump in here and see all of the personal information on your vehicles. And then, like I said, we have photos that are shared between yourself and the manager. And those photos are going to give you the ability to see the condition of the car as a client when you dropped it off with the host. Then we have the reservations page. Um, this is going to show you any reservation that is coming for the vehicles that you own with a host. Um, how we're doing this is we're actually collecting uh, the calendar link from the Turo website, and then we're just pasting it into our backend system, and it'll process it. And then any of the vehicles that are associated with those trips are going to populate onto that individual's dashboard. So as you can see, this client, I'm sure, has great peace of mind because it shows all of these trips coming in for their vehicle. Then we have the earnings page. This is going to show that client exactly how much money they are making on their specific vehicles, so that they can do, a report on how much they should be making, all that fun stuff. And they're also going to see expenses that are coming out of their account. And that way you can stay on top of like the expenses and say, hey, why was this month lower than last month? And you say, oh, look, we got an oil change and I have the receipt. Cool. Sounds good. Um, one last thing on the host dashboard that I did forget to show you, I kind of glanced over, is actually we have a services needed page. So this is back on the host dashboard. Services needed. This is going to say, hey, look, we've got a service that is, I'm just reporting it right now, and it's happening on this day with this car. And we can say what's wrong with the car. I don't know, brakes squeaking. And then you can mark its urgency as well, right? So if it is urgent, I would say brake squeaking may be urgent, depending on how you diagnose it. So you can mark it as urgent. Now you know that anything in red should be dealt with as soon as possible. Now, once that goes into progress, it's going to be marked as in progress. Once it's completed, it'll be marked as completed. And that would all reflect over here on the services needed. So as you can see, this individual had services that were reported on the car. And so they're going to be able to see, what has been reported and what issues are going to need to be fixed, if any. So there you have it. This has been a lifesaver for our hosts and our clients, and has made it so that communication has cut down drastically of clients that are bombarding hosts with questions about, hey, what's going on with my car, where's my payouts, what's my earnings, what are my expenses. That all is right here for them to see in live time now. So if this is something that you are interested in working with our team on, we are taking on clients right now or other host teams that are interested in using this at the moment. So please book a call with me, and I'm more than happy to get this set up and get you working through this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.